Well, good morning. I'm going to be working with my brown clay, making some face jugs. The first thing you have to do is make the jug. The tools I'm going to be using today are an assortment of ribs, my trusty needle tool, all kinds of sponges, the tool with a little slanted edge. You've seen me use that before. I might use this one, depends how I want the bottom to go. And I guess I'm working with about 7 to 8 pounds of Tucker's CCSS, which is a brown clay that has grog in it. And so my hands kind of get sandpapered. And I will try to explain things as I go, but sometimes I get so involved with what I'm doing, I just kind of zone out. Right now, the state of South Carolina is still at a stay-at-home quarantine. However, stores can be open, and according to square footage, depends upon the number of people that you're allowed to have in your store. Craft stores are allowed to be open, and because my building is a good size, I can have up to 8 other people besides myself. So, well, anyways, here it goes. Some people ask, well, what kind of wheel do I use? I am working on a Speedball Clay Boss wheel. This is a half horsepower wheel. I've owned 3 different kinds of wheels during my 47 years of being a potter. The very first wheel I had was a kick wheel that had a 300-pound flywheel. And believe me, you had to get your foot out of the way. You didn't want to stand up in a hurry because you could break your ankle real quick. The next wheel I had was very first my Shimpo, which right now Shimpo wheels are really expensive. My Shimpo wheel is about 45 years old, and it's still being in use. I brought it to the Allendale Correctional Institute, where I have a pottery studio and my ministry called the Jeremiah 18 Pottery Program. And you can look that up on Facebook, Jeremiah 18 Prison Pottery Program. And you can see what my men folk have been working on. I call them my apprentices. And I've gone through quite a few in the 6 years that I've been working there and volunteering. I go twice a week, Tuesdays and Fridays, and I'm usually there from noon until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And so because, well, today's Tuesday, and I normally would be there, except everybody's on quarantine there too. Don't want to get that virus. Or I don't know, maybe some people say they've already had the virus even before it was announced, but that's another theory. So what I've done very quickly is centered, as you can tell, nice and centered. And I've opened it up, and now I'm going to be checking the bottom to make sure that I have a bottom to my pot. Obviously, you don't want to have a hole in the bottom of your face jug. So I use the needle tool, and I got about that much. Oops. There you go. It's okay, see? About that much. That's good. I'd rather not have a thin bottom on a bigger jug, because during the drying process, if the clay is thin on the bottom, thinner than the size of the jug that you're making, that's when you tend to get a lot of cracking. So what I'm doing now, as you can see how it's growing, it's getting taller. I am pulling the clay, and there's quite a bit here, so it'll probably come out of the screen. I find that if I hold my telephone, old-timey, my cell phone, instead of holding it vertically, I hold it horizontally. You get a better picture. Otherwise, you get those two little bars on either side, and you don't really have a good view of what's going on. When you're throwing taller pieces, obviously you cannot, your hands can't come together. I think in previous videos I showed you how when I was throwing, I would put my thumb from my inside hand on my outside hand so that I could go up the pot together. But as you become more experienced and you practice more, you can learn to move your hands at the same speed without having to touch. And what happens if you don't pull at the same speed, you'll get one lip or the lip of your pot, one side will be higher than the other. It's an uneven pull, and that's, for beginners, that's something that they have to work out. I wish I could pick up my phone and show you what the top looks like. It's very nice and even, but if I do that, I will have all this muddy clay all over my phone. So it's probably not a good idea. I'm gonna keep on coming back down here and grabbing up clay, making my walls thinner, pulling up. Ooh, we got a little bulge right there. It'll go back. Pulling up the clay. Now I want to shape this into a jug form. So even though I pulled it up to, let's see what my ruler says here. I got my ruler. Let's see, I pulled it up to 10 inches exactly. I'm going to belly it out. And when you belly it out, because that gives the jug more volume, your height shrinks. I mean, that's just the way it goes. It just happens. So when I finish this into the size that I really want, I will measure it again and you'll see the difference. So I pulled it to 10 inches. And now I'm going to start, I like to make kind of an ovoid shape, which means the base is narrow and then it bellies out and then the top comes back in. And I don't want to flare the top out too far because then it's hard to get it back into shape where you can make it into a spout. So right now, that's what I'm going to be working on, is working on the top and working it back in. What's going on here? Got some shiny spot here. Let's get rid of that glare. There. Now I'm going to be starting to work on creating the spout, or the top of the jug. Little brown jug. I think there's a song that goes like, little brown jug. I'm not singing. I'm not having that on my videos. You probably won't watch them if I do that. And you know, YouTube has a lot of potters out there that have videos, how-to videos, and you don't have to pay anything to watch them or to join or to, I don't know, just go around and check out what they do and how they do it. Some of them are really interesting, especially the ones from the UK. I love to watch the UK potters. Potters from England, you know, because there's a lot of pottery history over in England. Just going to use this rib to kind of go around the pot. Slow my wheel down a little bit as I get near the top. And what I can do is, before I say I'm finished with this, or I like what I'm going to do, I'll wash off my hands real quick and and then give you a view of the whole pot. So I like to add near the top rim, I like to add a little detail. Sometimes I'll take my rib and come up, and then I'll hold it really firmly and create, and I'll show you in the final picture, create like a little flange, I guess that's what you call it. Just a little detail that defines the spout. And sometimes I'll do a double one, and then I could do some sort of creative design near the top. Let's see if I can find my, this is my scratch tool. See that? So I'm going to go real slow, and I'm going to make a little zigzag design by wiggling my hand up and down, and I'll show you that. And I get this all set. I think what I'm going to do now, I like to put a little foot on it. I've been doing some unique glazing lately. And the only problem with it is it tends to want to run right off the pot. So I use my little scallop tool here. Don't know what it's called, but that's what I call it. And I'm going to make a little ridge at the bottom, and again I'll show you a close-up of that. And this will help the glaze as it runs down. It will pull into that ridge, and it'll act like a stopgap so that it won't run off onto the shelf. And all of these pots, and any of them that I have glaze that is very runny, I make sure that I stilt them, and a stilt is a prong thing that helps hold them up off the floor of the kiln. Because it's okay if it drips down a little bit, as long as it doesn't drip to the kiln shelf, because, oh well, then you ruined your kiln shelf and you've ruined the pot, and that's not a very happy experience for anybody that does pottery. And kilns are so expensive, and the shelves are so expensive too, that you really want to be careful. It's better just to have little kiln cookies or little discs that you can make yourself real cheap to put up underneath your pieces, or you can buy the taller stilts. Okay, let me get my hands all cleaned off here, and I'll give you a close-up of this pot. Oh, I said I was going to measure it. Okay. So remember, I pulled it to was about 10 inches. So now it is, let's see if I can get something to go across here like this. It is now, oops. Let's see, can you see that? Was that like nine and a, I can't see it. 9.5. That's not bad. And then the clay shrinkage, the shrinkage rate is about 10% with this clay. So it'll probably end up being about like 9¼ inches tall when it's done. Now you can see that little ridge that I made from this tool right here. See, I did that. And hopefully that'll stop the runs. Now I'm going to show you the top. Let's get the things out of the way here. Oh, that was from my fingernail. Okay, see? And that'll fit a good size cork. But you know, when you're doing a bigger jug, you don't want a tiny spout, because then the proportion doesn't look right. So I have some corks that are, they're about like 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches maybe. Let's see how big this, I'll measure. Sorry for the bumping while I get, see the little design I did around the edge? See, wiggly design. That looks really cool when the glaze breaks on it. So I'm gonna measure my spout, and let's see, I'm showing it correctly. So it's like 1.5 inches. So again, that's going to shrink. So it's going to be like 1.25 inches. And then you have to have, I mean, that's the base. That'll be the base. And then most corks flare to the top. So it'll be probably 1.25 inches cork with 1.5 inches top. And so that's kind of common. So let's see, I'm just going to take my fine sponge here and just go over that spot, especially at my fingernail. You wouldn't think I'd have fingernails doing pottery, but you know, they do grow. So this is the beginning of a face jug. And then in future videos, I will show how I put on the face, which is kind of fun. And every single one of them is like a person, have their own individual characters. So, okay, see you soon.